So I could see you and I could hear you and everything. But the thing was, I couldn't come on the stage. So yeah, I'll have to.
Oh,
Yeah. Oof. It's never a live event if these things don't happen.
technical
So
difficulties.
definitely. I mean, yeah. So yeah, let's get started. Thanks a lot for joining, folks. It's a Saturday afternoon. We have 10 attendees already. Apan and I, or there are some new folks. Yeah. Thanks a lot for joining. So yeah, let's get started with the introduction stuff. So just glad that a lot of you could join. So just a quick introduction about me. I am Utkarsh. I am a developer evangelist at Aviel. And what exactly are we doing at Aviel? So basically, Aviel is on a mission to create scalable monetization avenue for open source projects. And at the same time, we are aiming for doing everything that we do while preserving the open source character of that very project. So we believe in incentivizing strong communities around projects, because we believe that incentivization is a very strong part that keeps the open source projects alive. At the same time, we are making sure that we drive the project's growth, making sure there is an increase in adoption and basically growing it overall. To sum it all up, at its core, we are helping open source projects scale and make them sustainable. That is what we are about. So now getting back to today's session, we have an amazing speaker joining us today. So a lot of folks don't know. I'm sure a lot of folks do know about you. So Vanya's, her profile's been there all over the Twitter, especially her work with MLH. She is actually known for her amazing work in hackathon communities through MLH, and she is also an hackathon product specialist. She transitioned into her first technical role as a software developer engineer at Microsoft around 8 months back. So this talk will be very much centric to her inclination and advocacy around women in tech communities and hackathons, and her amazing work that a lot of folks have seen throughout the years, especially the last 2 years. So yeah, let's dive into it. Let us get a short intro from you. Current role, what do you do, and what company are you working at right now, and what do they do?
Definitely, sure. So I hope everyone can see and hear me clearly. We good
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, awesome. So yeah, my name is Sashrika, and I work as a software developer in Microsoft. So as you mentioned already a bit about my profile with MLH, I work as a Hackathon Product Specialist and a coach as well. So both of these are centric to me, giving back to the community and basically developing experiences for hackers at our virtual events and in making it more diverse and engaging for the community. So yeah, if you see me hanging around in Discord, the community event, I mean, that is what I generally do. That's how I spend my weekends. A little bit on the other front is that, yes, I just started my software developer role 8 months back. I graduated in 21, so I'm not, I'm an early in career professional if you must. So yeah, it's been an exciting journey so far. I'm super excited for what's to come next, and happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me for this podcast, by the way.
Yeah, you had a very good profile which matched to a lot of things that we were focusing on. So yeah, so we had to invite you, and we had to know your journey, and we had to share it with the people around us, because I feel it is very important that people see even the ups and downs, not even just the ups and downs, but the work it takes to even build such a profile around it. And I mean, when you get to this stage, what do you do with it? So that is what we are trying to showcase over here. So let's go way back, right? So let's go way back, and let's start with the question that comes to everyone's mind in the very first place is, what was your first Hello World, and how were you introduced to the whole world of developers? And if so, if there's a person, if so, by who?
So this is an interesting question. So unlike many developers, I wrote a Hello World program many times during my initial career years, I would say, because it was not just something like one thing that I was trying to learn. I was trying to explore. I was trying to see where my interests lie. So my first Hello World program was when my friend actually taught me in college. She helped me write my first Hello World program because she studied that in her high school years. I didn't, and I was there in my first year of college with no idea which programming language to go with. So I started with C++, wrote my first program there, and then I figured that, okay, this won't, get me too far if I'm just going to write some program, some basic flows, a for loop here and there. So that's when I joined up a course, started up with data structures and algorithms. And so that's when I write my second first Hello World program in Java. So interesting journey there. Took a couple of months to just go ahead and learn all of those concepts, all of those fundamentals. And the world of developers was not something that was introduced there. So that is a different journey altogether. I was attending my first GDG community event, I believe, and that's when I attended a talk. So I was exploring various tracks. There was ML, there was web development, there was Android, there were many tracks there. I can't even remember how many were there, but yeah, I remember attending this one session on Android, and it got me hooked there. The speaker was amazing. He's still my mentor, and he is who introduced me to the world of developers. So if I had to name one person, I would say yes, Harshit Dwivedi, if you have seen him around. So he'd introduced me to the world of developers. He introduced me to Android application development. I joined his classes. I learned Android from him, and he's been my mentor since then. So he helped me throughout so many things. He's guided me through so much. So I can't even begin to explain how grateful I am for him to introduce me to all of this.
Yeah. I mean, we've had similar talks before, and one of the very strong inclinations that a lot of people had was about having a mentor at some point of the stage, maybe very early.
Yeah.
They might be. We had even Manya come up in the last podcast, and she told us about that she started her journey with Visual Basic, so at the very first. So that was pretty unique, and then. But the thing is that you started in college itself, right? That is when you were totally dedicated towards it, and to see the growth just in maybe the time frame of 3 or 4 years, that's actually pretty good. That's pretty amazing, to be very honest. So let's dive into the whole aspect of the hackathons, right? So you've had a very, very vast profile around MLH and with them, and I've even. To be very honest, I've been a fan, and during my initial days where I was doing the whole virtual hackathon scene, because I was never a virtual person. It took a lot of time for me to even transition into the whole virtual aspects of technology. So, but then I used to go on MLH and I used to see your videos and the sessions you used to take during LHDs, local hack days. So that was pretty amazing. So I was like, okay, so let us check the profile, and your profile was pretty good. I mean, I've seen your community work start from very early on, especially just getting right into the whole, the college or university, right? So, I mean, we'll dive into that later, but then how did the whole journey of hackathons begin?
I mean, first of all, you're too kind. I mean, I'm honestly, this is too much to see that, I am overwhelmed by hearing you saying all of those things. So thank you so much. You're too kind, and I really appreciate your comments there. So yeah, hackathons was an interesting phase. I mean, it started back again when I was in my college, and I completed my course. So now I know about Android applications, but I just don't know what to do with it. Like, how do you create projects? How do you go about building something that you're actually excited about? I mean, there's so many interesting ideas. You need to pick one, or and learning by yourself, honestly, I find it a little boring. I think I thrive when I'm in a community. I thrive when there are other folks around me and we are brainstorming on an idea, working on different projects, and bringing out something amazing at the end of the day. So that's when I came across this term called hackathon, and I was like, okay, what is this? Like, what is a hackathon? I just don't know what that is. And so another friend of mine, this is back when I was studying in coding blocks, he introduced me to this whole thing where there's an event, you go there, you stay overnight for 24 hours. I mean, that sounds interesting. I mean, you're just having fun and creating something awesome. So he told me that there's something coming up, and there's an event there in Delhi itself, and this is something we can go to. We can form a team, we can create an interesting product, we can just go ahead and build something amazing, present it to a bunch of judges, and let's see if we win. I was like, yeah, cool. I am super excited. I am here for it. Let's go. And we formed a team. We went there. We pitched our hackathon product. Unfortunately, we didn't win. That was my first experience with hackathons, but that was an amazing event because the things that I learned there were absolutely incredible, out of this world. So there were so many extraordinary folks that we met there. We talked to them. We learned from their journeys, and we realized that people love hackathons. They spend their weekends building something just for the thrill of it, and they're super excited to be there every weekend. There are so many folks who are just coming one after the other. So it was so interesting, and I was hooked. I was kind of hooked. So I thought, maybe I can explore this thing more. I can build more products. And first, I'm not gonna lie, initially it was just about building projects to see if I actually learned those skills that I so I did a course, so I wanted to test if I actually learned something new. But later on, it generally turned into something more fun. It was more of a social event where I could meet some friends. As you mentioned, not a virtual person at all. Even though we've been virtual for 2 years, I'm also not a virtual person at all. I loved attending events. I loved going there and talking to a bunch of folks, making new friends and stuff. So that was pretty amazing. That was the part where I was kind of hooked, and I wanted to attend more community events. I was attending a few community events back then, but hackathons was when all of it phased up. So there was this one hackathon that I went to. I actually flew to a different city to attend that hackathon. Again, made a whole trip out of it. Had an amazing time. Didn't win again. So these were two hackathon experiences that I didn't win at all. But later on, after that, I think so there was this one other which happened in my university that I won eventually. So I'm not going to go into details about what happened at which hackathon, but then again, a lot of hackathons after that. And after I connected with MLH, started my journey here, it's been, I believe, 2.5 years that I'm working with MLH now. And 40 hackathons later, I'm still hooked. So I believe there is something there that's keeping me, even though it's virtual and it's all digital. I think something is there that's still keeping me alive and enthusiastic about all of this. So yeah, I'm super excited about future hackathons as well, because I'm planning to attend a few. And I've been an organizer, a coach, a mentor, a judge, a participant, lost a few, won a few. And recently I found out that, so this was something that I found out recently, that in Microsoft, so I'm working in Microsoft as a software engineer, and I found out that there's a hackathon within Microsoft itself that happens at a global scale where everyone does participate, and I was super excited. I had to participate. I didn't think at any point in time that I would actually end up winning that hackathon based upon my experiences, but those 40 hackathons definitely helped me go ahead and take a pitch there, or present my ideas and everything. So yeah, I think hackathons is an incredible journey for folks who are listening, or folks who would listen to this podcast. It's something that you'd be interested in based upon my journey. I think you should definitely give it a shot, because once you get into this whole thing, I don't think there's any way that you'll stop learning, stop growing.
Makes sense. I'd seen the very recent updates on Twitter that you had won, and there was I guess Japan's Microsoft CEO
he was Joe Bao. He's in China.
That's actually pretty great. So there must have been a lot of, so it was for internal Microsoft developers, right? So that's a pretty big thing. Yes. It is actually a pretty big thing. So Microsoft are crazy. Microsoft developers are crazy nerds. So the hackathons are pretty hard. But then, I mean, I get it. After doing more than 40 plus hackathons, especially mentoring and judging, there are a lot of criteria that you get to know internally just by sitting with people who have been experienced with you, right? I remember judging the first hackathon that I did for, so it was my first time. I didn't know what to judge upon, but the person sitting next to me, he had been judging it. He told me these are the criteria, because for me, I mean, everybody is still coding, everybody's still producing their products, semi-products. But then how do we even judge them, right? Because the code is working, everything is working actually. Yeah. So there's the front end. Front end is actually working, and thanks to God, back end is also working. So how do we even judge that? So, I mean, when you get into that ecosystem, there's a lot of criteria that you understand. And once you get the kick of winning hackathons, right? It's a different feeling, right? You don't want to stop. It's like you become a hackathon junkie. So you go all for it. Yeah.
Definitely. So I completely agree with you on that. That it's a unique feeling. It's a thrill there.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, right, everyone has a first time. I remember my first time as well. Similar experiences. No idea what's gonna happen at judging, even though I have been like going to hackathon as a participant. But yeah, when you're on the other side of the table, it's a little different because then you have to think about things in a certain way. You have to think about, okay, these are two different products in front of me. They have similar themes. Now, who do I pick? Because they have the same product. I mean, how do I pick that? So yeah, that's definitely a thing, but it gives you a lot more perspective when you are participating in hackathons.
Yeah.
So again, glad to see that you had an exciting and an enriching first experience. Someone was there to guide you. But yeah, it's interesting in hackathons. You can find so many amazing people who can bring that out in you. You don't even know that you can think about things to a different perspective. So it's interesting.
Yeah, true. But then, so like, if you had to sum up your journey with the MLH coach, right? As an MLH coach, no. Before that, let's get. I mean, when you saw when you went to the whole hackathon system, you went crazy for it, and you were like, okay, this is something that I want to do. So, but then, so what made you join MLH as a coach, and like, how did you know? Okay, like, this has to be something that I do, and at the same time I make sure that I'm also doing other stuff at the same time so that I build my profile for future career and stuff. So what was going on in your head at that point, and how did you even make the call to, okay, let's do an MLH coach? Because from what I know, even from my acquaintances at MLH, it's a job, right? It's a thing. So it is a pretty hectic thing, because I've seen MLH having a lot of folks joining just for one event. There's a lot of internal stuff going on. If you don't join the internal community, I mean, if you don't participate, you won't get to know. Just join the Discord and see how crazy it is.
Yes.
So how is it?
You're right there. I mean, you have to be in that Discord server to understand how crazy it gets. But I would say that it's more fun for me than crazy. First thing, because again, as you know by now, I talk a lot, and that really helps as a coach. Believe it or not, really helps as a coach, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to learn about the other folks who are there in the Discord server. There are other folks who want to talk to you about stuff. So that's an interesting thing. And as you mentioned, so like, how did I came about MLH and all of that stuff? So that's again another interesting story that I find it interesting, of course. So back when I was a student, I had been to a couple of hackathons, a few of them, and then won a few, lost many. But when I was at this one hackathon, the one that I flew to a different city to, I got this really small sticker which said, so I had this habit of collecting stickers back then. I don't anymore, but yeah, back then I did collect a lot of stickers. So this was one sticker which said MLH. I got that sticker and I had no clue what it meant, because in that hackathon there was no MLH. Like, MLH was not a sponsor or a partner there. So it was just somebody attended a different hackathon in a different country and they had that sticker and they were like, okay, yeah, you can have that. I have an extra one. So I came home, I researched about it. I went online, I just Googled what MLH is, and I realized that they have this unique concept of creating a standard of excellence in hackathons. So they want to grow as a company and create better experiences for hackathons and other folks. And I was like, I had great experiences so far, so I think it's pretty cool. But they are actually making it more interesting, more awesome in general, I believe, in all aspects, not just in terms of, okay, you're building something amazing, but in terms of you have a great experience, you make friends, you have fun, and you are there to, spending an entire weekend where you could be doing anything that you want to, but you're spending an entire weekend with us, so it might as well be amazing, right? So that's what the whole idea behind that was, and I really liked their company at first. I researched a bit about who's there, who's leader. So Swift was the CEO. Swift is the CEO of the company. He's co-founding it with John, and both of them had amazing profiles. So that's how I got hooked. I applied to become a coach right on the website, and I prayed to God that, oh my God, please define my profile interesting. Even if it's like an interview, I will see what happens. But if it's a win if it's an interview, because the company is not here in APAC yet. And I remember seeing this tweet by Joe. So Joe made this tweet and he mentioned that, okay, MLH might be expanding to APAC region, and I was thrilled because back then It was not, they had no plans to come here. I had just applied a few days ago, and then there was this news that they were coming to the APAC region. So I had no intention back then of being a coach. Even though I applied to be a coach, I didn't know that I would be a coach, because the interview process clearly seemed a bit hectic. So ultimately, like, I messaged Joe on Twitter and I told him that, hey, if you're coming to APAC region, I would love to organize that hackathon with you. I mean, I work as an organizer, and then we can partner with you. If nothing else, it would be interesting to just know these folks, right? They're so amazing. And that's one thing that I learned from there, that like in the tech world, it's very important to, learn from folks you find inspiring. If you just talk to them, if you just meet them, if you connect with them, it's very inspiring. That's what my main aim was, actually learning from brilliant folks. I had no idea. And so when shortly after, I got a mail from them, and they told me that, okay, you were invited for the interview. And I was thrilled. I was overwhelmed. At the same time, I was nervous, but I was super excited in general. I went there. After 3 interviews, or I think 3 interviews or so, I got hired. I got hired as a coach. And I remember this one time I got this email from Ryan after I was hired that, okay, this is what we're going to do next. These are the next set of events. You can tell us your availability. This is your contract and stuff. And they told me that, okay, this is a job after all. Now, this is a part-time job that you'd be doing. This is how the structure works. The only thing that I had in mind was, okay, I don't have that amount to, go ahead and just attend these hackathons week after week on my own budget. So they told us that yes, they would provide that budget. That's fine. And I was like, okay, I'm getting paid for a job and you're providing me that budget. That's insane. I don't believe you for a second. So I had to confirm and cross-check from them that, are you sure this is how it works? And they're like, that's definitely how it's working. And I was super thrilled. Back then, I think in my it was the end of the second year or something, and the only thing that I had in mind was, okay, great, so I get to travel, I get to attend hackathons, I get to meet amazing people, and to top it all, I actually get to see these interesting projects. So I mean, it was a dream come true back then. MLH was absolutely a dream come true, and it changed my life in ways that I couldn't even imagine. And as a student, I think that speaks volumes, because you don't get to see those many opportunities when you are just in your campus. You don't get to see those many things when you're just inside your classroom. You have to get out. I was never a classroom kid. I never enjoyed my time sitting inside those walls and just studying, or probably with the books. I always enjoyed getting out of the classrooms. Even my attendance was quite low because of those reasons. But it was fun. It was fun while it lasted. While before the pandemic, it was absolute fun. After the pandemic, we found ways to make it fun. But it was an amazing journey for these last 2.5 years or so.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I've seen firsthand MLH move to APAC and see how it boomed, especially for the APAC. I mean, students in India went crazy for it, right? But then there's a cycle to it that I understood, that there was a lot of learning involved and opportunities that students, especially Indian students, they didn't have before, right? And I saw when MLH started doing LHDs, internal college groups, they started coming up with large-scale hackathons that were not just in their colleges itself, it was there in their city, and then they were doing it cross cities. So I've seen that expand firsthand on the very backstage. But then it's been crazy, right? I mean, so if you had to sum up your journey as an MLH coach, how would you do it? And what were just a few learnings that you would share? I mean, if there are any. I mean, every part of the journey would be a learning. It's a whole roller coaster, right? But then if there are some pointers.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, right, it was a roller coaster ride. MLH changed my life in ways that I can't even begin to sum up. But then if I had to, it was a roller coaster ride. Funny thing, I was on my first roller coaster when I became an MLH coach. They took us to this. So we were in Singapore, so they took us to Universal there, and so that's where I've actually had my first roller coaster ride. So yeah, I mean, literally and metaphorically, it was a roller coaster. It gave me a chance to build those skills that I needed. Soft skills, interview skills, gave me that network to actually connect to folks and ask those burning questions that I had in my head. Because as a student, that's what you need. You need mentors. You need to know what would be there when go forward to make a better decision, to know who you are, to understand what your interests lie in. Not everybody loves to create an ML project. Not everybody loves to create a website. People have different interests. Somebody would like an Android app, somebody would like data, somebody would like something else, somebody would like game development. I mean, that was a huge thing in a lot of these hackathons. So people have their varied interests, and unless you try, you will not learn. So the whole part of this journey was just exploring who you are. And as a coach, they give you a lot of opportunities to do that, because when, like, you might have heard this before, like when you mentor someone else, when you're answering questions, that's when you realize the most about yourself, because that's how you get to know who you really are. And so it was a whole journey of exploration, a journey of defining, what works for me, what doesn't work for me. If I'm working in a company, how to actually be there, how to act as a professional, how to be in a setup where you can grow together, learn from others, share your learnings, and all of that stuff. So I mean, it all led up to me joining Microsoft as well. It all led up to me acing in some of the interviews that I did. So it had an interesting journey. And if I had to sum it up as a coach in general, I think a lot of it involves me networking, me understanding how folks love to create products, the idea behind what inspires them, and then moving forward with that. So I think it was just me trying to meet a bunch of interesting folks and then learning from them that led to all of this hassle. But I would say it was worth it. So it was amazing.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I have a follow-up question about your whole role as a coach, and then the whole transition and everything. But then we have a very important point that has been there on your profile since the very start, right? And you have been advocating for women in tech for a very long time. From what I researched and what I saw, you had also been advocating for women in tech, even when you started with the college and the whole tech thing. It was called Techsters, and then for the very latest, it was I Am Remarkable. That's a pretty big thing. I've seen a lot of big profiles get there, and to get the whole ecosystem and everything. So if you could just give a glance at the whole journey, why do you want? I mean, I shouldn't even ask why. There is the need for it. So just tell me, how did it even get to the point where you were like, okay, this has to be one of the pointers that has to be on my profile. I want to advocate for it. And then how has it been growing from Techsters to I Am Remarkable?
Definitely, yeah. Women in tech was never something like advocating for women in tech is basically never something that I wanted to put on my profile or something. So I started with enrolling myself in a girls' college. So my university, IGDTUW, is a college for women, engineering college for women in Delhi. And I saw some amazing women, extraordinary folks there who had so many varied interests. They've been through so much. They are there and they're making it big in the industry right now. They had their whole journey. I saw it too for the 4 years, right? And I met some interesting mentors, some seniors who were trying to just, get those opportunities in IGDTUW. Inside our campus, we didn't have that much opportunities when we first joined in them. So Microsoft still came for placement in our campus, but no other big company did. So in an entire campus, only 4 students or 5 students probably got the chance to work for a big company, and rest everyone had to pick from other companies that came in, not as great. But that entire 4 years changed the dynamic, and so all the big companies, all great companies, are now coming to the campus, hiring students, and they want to hire students from IGDTUW. And in the first year, IGDTU was not on the map, right? It was, nobody would know what IGDTU was, and we had to give it a little brief that, okay, you remember this campus that DTU had? Yeah, now that's a girls' college now, and it's called IGDTU. That's how it started. That okay, this campus is not DTU. This campus is IGDTUW. We had to give that brief because it had the same ring, so people thought that it might be linked in some way, and we had to give that. It's not. But now we don't anymore. Now that introduction is completely changed. Now they know that, because so many folks are doing so many interesting things in the industry, and they are all from IGDTUW, they know for a fact that, okay, this college exists and it is not related to any other thing. It's an independent university. So that all changed. But it all started with back when in the first year, we saw that there are so many opportunities out there and we don't have access to those. And we don't even know how to get that access, right? We don't even know how to get that foot inside that door because we were just, a bunch of newbies. We had to figure out what to do next. And once we stepped in, we realized that the system is absolutely broken. I mean, there were so many things that were absolutely wrong. The way that we do things are absolutely wrong, that it just didn't make any sense. And so a lot of us folks went to all of these community events to talk to people. I remember in my first or probably second community event, I met someone who's an industry professional, and they told me about the horrors of working in tech as a woman. And I was absolutely shocked to see that, because I came into this field to, make something out of my career. I wanted to be respected. I wanted to be in an environment where I can grow. And she was telling me about all of these things where, once you are inside that company, it doesn't matter. You have to do a bunch of things. As simple as coming home late is not an option for a lot of girls in India, right?
So true.
And so that, we won't even realize how many opportunities that kicks out of the door. Because let's say you're at a community event and that ends late, and you have to talk to speakers. As simple as networking with someone interesting. You can't do that. You have to pick up the last train to go home. So that's very that was very annoying when I saw that. And the fact that a lot of people find this part privileged, you're a woman in tech, you might be privileged, and I just go nuts when I hear that. And I was like, okay, let me tell you what the other side of the table looks like. So it began with that. It began with a lot of anger at first about how things are turning out to be, but then sooner rather than later I realized that anger would take me nowhere. If I had to change things, if we had to change things, we had to do it together. And so might see on Twitter or in community events or anywhere else, you might see a lot of folks from our college or from other events as well, to make that change happen, right? They are actually putting it out there and motivating each other to make that change happen. And we've come a long way. We have a long way to go, but that whole journey of 4 years had to bring that out. And it did start from Techsters. I was also part of Instinct, which was another college society. These were the two college societies where a group of women would come together, learn those skills, teach each other skills, and then move forward. I Am Remarkable was just so I got a lot. So all of these initiatives helped me get some scholarships for my study, right? So there was one scholarship that I received, which was a Google WTM scholarship, and another one which was Goldman Sachs scholarship. Both of these were given to me to encourage me to pursue my career, not be disheartened by the horrors that we see, and at the same time give back to the community. They gave me a lot of resources there, which I could share with my community of women. I could share with other folks who can take this forward and get that culture in, where there are a lot of women who want to apply to these jobs. There's this quote in I Am Remarkable that we hear, which says that you see a job description, and it's just a stat where you hear that men do, or folks from other genders do apply to those roles, even if they meet like 80% of the criteria, and women don't apply if they meet 100% of that criteria. And that was insane. I mean, I felt that, but it was a huge problem, because on the other side we realized that we're not getting enough applications from women because they're not encouraged to apply. And so that's where the whole advocacy came in. That's where the whole thing came in. When I got myself into the WTM program, we went out there for a retreat, 3 days, amazing women. They had so many interesting stories to share. They went through so many hardships to be where they are, and that made that was amazing. I'm still connected to a lot of them, and I'm working on a new project that we'll launch soon with a bunch of them, and it's amazing that we can do so much with so little. Love that. So that's when I came across I Am Remarkable, got myself enrolled as a facilitator because I wanted to do some sessions back home, and so I heard the story about an amazing Google developer who applied 7 times, and she was in a different role. She was in a medical role, a pharmaceutical role, and so she had to apply 7 times to get into Google, and that was an inspiring story. She told me that once I was in, I had this feeling of imposter syndrome where I didn't feel like I belong in the world of tech because I came in from a different background. And so she had to go through all of these things. But at one point she thought that, somebody might have made a mistake of hiring me here. Somebody screwed up. I'm not sure who it is, but somebody did screw up. But later on, there was this one quote that she said that changed the game for me. I think that made me more confident as a confident person in tech. She said that if somebody did make a mistake of hiring me, I mean, that's their problem. I'm here to do my job. I'm just going to do that. So that thing was amazing. I mean, that's their screw up, right? Not mine. So just deal with it. Yeah. I'm here now.
So true. Yeah. I mean, so true. I mean, I guess I framed it wrong to put it on the profile, but then I guess every woman who's in tech, she's already advocating for the role, and she's always been, and what she, as in, it's a very third person. If I'm saying it from a third person perspective, but then they are already advocating for their roles, to be very honest, and they do share, because I've seen a lot of. You mentioned your university's name, so I've seen a lot of similar profiles come on Twitter and share their journeys, and now they are actually at a point, and also a lot of similar profiles in Microsoft who take Twitter Spaces and they share their journeys. I've been in their Twitter Spaces, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, every woman who's already in tech, they are actually pretty much advocating for the role that they are doing, and
because they've seen all of that, right? They know that if they don't share their stories, somebody in some corner would not show up for an interview or would not show up to apply for a job or an opportunity or a scholarship. And there are a lot of folks who need it. It's absolutely necessary for them. So giving them that confidence would definitely be a game changer. And when all of this was happening, when, as you mentioned, there are a lot of Twitter profiles and a lot of folks who share their journeys. I think that's very important, because once you share your journey, you feel inspired, somebody else feels inspired, and it's there's nothing that can go wrong there. So definitely do that. And we had to, so even after getting those part of those scholarship programs, I remember this one time, I think I do tell this story a lot, but it was insane. I was a WDM scholar. That was a scholarship program for women in tech. And it was sponsored by Google. There was another one that was sponsored by Goldman Sachs, and there was another conference, GHCI, again for women. So there are these women in tech programs. A lot of women in tech don't know about these programs. Firstly, we had to create that awareness about them, that okay, do apply. There are these many scholarship programs that you can apply. There's a list of 50 that we found later on, but people didn't even know about one. So we were creating that awareness, and there was this one person who came up to me and said, okay, you got this scholarship, you don't have to brag about this, because it's just you got the scholarship because you're a woman. I was like, yeah, it was for women. So definitely, that was it's not just supposed to. It's you were not in that field, right? You're not in that.
It's meant for you guys, so you're supposed to grab it, right? It is meant for you.
Yeah, you're supposed to apply for that opportunity. There's another scholarship for me, for a co-ed scholarship where anyone can apply. Did you know that? Did you research enough to know that there is a Google Women Scholarship that you can apply to? And it has a much bigger prize and much bigger perks as compared to this one. But no, you don't know, because you were all there blaming everyone else for what they're doing. Just go ahead and find those opportunities. If we get rejected in a job interview, our first question to the HR is, how can we improve our profile to make it better? But I see a lot of folks on LinkedIn just bragging about how, they have these stars and they can get those interviews cleared. So it was a whole thing back then. And I think what it did was discourage a lot of women from applying. And so that's where I just believe that we can make a lot of change by sharing these stories.
Yeah. It's back. So what happened was, for a while, your screen went to the top in the speakers panel and everything. So I was like, okay, something crazy. Okay. We'll report it to the tech team and we'll see what happened. We'll have to look at the logs and everything. But then, that's a very, I would say it's a very important and a delicate discussion that a lot of folks do have, right? There have been women in tech in very high-end roles, like engineering managers, directors of big companies. They talk about these things, and there's a lot of insight you get, and there's a lot of women who would connect to them, right? Because everybody has their unique journey, but then in some way or the other, they're still connected by some sort of thing that has happened during their whole journey. And they're like, okay, this has happened with me too. And they're like, okay, if they've already passed that phase, they'll be like, hey, this is the way how you can conquer it, right? So that inspires a lot of folks, and they're like, okay, let's do it. right? And that, I feel that is very, very important. I mean, especially, it sounds cliche about how the open source system has, where you mention hackathon, it is open source. There's no need to even get that thing involved. But then I've seen MLH come into the whole APAC region, and I'll talk about India. India's open source whole thing booming.
Game change, yes.
Yeah, it's been game changer, and especially in the last 3 years, where I've seen good folks, not just women, but then also men from colleges who are doing pretty great, right? And all of them have been sharing their journeys in their ways, creating impact that they could, and it's been a game changer, right? Because I've seen Twitter profiles, especially tech Twitter is what I'm talking about. It's a game changer. When I got to know about it, I'm like, I didn't know you could get hired from Twitter. So I got hired. My first job was from Twitter itself. So that's pretty crazy. So so there's a lot of things we covered. There's a lot of takeaways that we could do. We can repurpose the whole thing into a lot of things. But then that's a pretty unique question that you even mentioned backstage that we wanted to talk about. So someone with your profile, right? You mentioned teaching, mentoring, judging. At the same time, you were an MLH coach. So that involves advocating for tech that has sponsored the projects, obviously. You have to use some sort of that. And there's the whole open source thing involved. So why would you not switch to DevRel? You don't even need to switch to DevRel. You've been doing DevRel for a while now, for almost 2 or 3 years. Yeah, right when you get started in the community space and you make it official, you are a DevRel, right? You are teaching someone, you are a DevRel. Irrespective of whether you get the title from any company, right? That is the job. So why would you go for a very tech-centric role, especially like a company like Microsoft, where you have to be very tech-centric? It's a tech-centric thing. So why that?
So as I mentioned backstage, that this is the first time that everyone has ever asked me that question, and I really love that because it gave me a lot to think about. Why I'm not making that switch to DevRel, right? So I had this choice, of course. You're right. Based on my profile, there are a lot of things which are specific, which are DevRel specific, which, my journey with coach, my advocacy, other things that I do, talks, mentoring folks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this all leads up to making my profile very strong for DevRel. But at the same time, when I stepped into the gates of the university, the first thing that I wanted to do was get hired as a software developer because I love getting my hands dirty. I love writing code, and I love exploring all of those different technologies that come. Always wanted to be on that forefront. And so when it came to that, choosing between a path between DevRel and software engineering, I realized that why can't I do both? I am a DevRel, of course. I work as a DevRel for other companies, but I really like the software engineering part, and I don't want to get rid of it. So
makes sense.
What I'm gonna do is I'll work both companies. I work as a software engineer in Microsoft, and put that bug aside where it says that, I want to be a software engineer. I want to be in the engineering role. And at the same time, I love talking. I love talking to folks. I love, that side where, you can advocate for all of those developers who I am a developer myself. I have my experiences from the software developer role. I take those experiences, I advocate for them in the developer relations part, and then act upon it. I don't act again as a title DevRel, as you said, right? I don't have that title in an organization, but yes, as a coach, as a Hackathon Product Specialist, all of my job there is totally based upon my DevRel profile. And it was difficult for me to make a choice, so I ended up doing both. But focusing on my main role, it definitely is software engineering. So you would say that I did transition a bit to this role. It was a different transition. A lot of folks don't like that transition. I've seen a lot of folks make the opposite transition from software engineer. They just go to the DevRel profile, and that's interesting. I did the opposite thing, but it was just based upon my interest, something that I wanted to do for a long time. And who knows? Probably I'll pick up a different role down the lane, which has a mix of best of both worlds. But for now, I'm juggling too.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen that is the usual. Whenever you talk about roles, there's always this preset how you get to that role. There's a roadmap for it. So usually when people get into DevRel, they either have done some sort of software engineering Either maybe it may be very product centric or very inclined to just the code, right? It might be JavaScript, TypeScript, or anything. But then at least for 1 year or two, they have been very much inclined to something. So that is how I made the switch. I was into data science. I was freelancing with small groups in various parts of the world. And I did it for almost 1.5 years. And I was like, okay, this is not for me. I have been doing something on the side. Let's pick up on that. So, I mean, yeah. So, and data science was something that was mind-boggling to me. It was very much tech-centric. And I was into the in the medical science of it. So, it was pretty crazy. I loved it. But then, yeah. At some point zeros and ones are just too much to make the sense of it.
I get that.
So there's only so much you can do with zeros and ones. But then that answers it all. I've had a lot of folks the folks who have been very tech centric have answered the similar way, because they're like, okay, I have a very technical role and it's at so and so company. I'll do that during the weekend. I'll do it during the weekdays, Monday to Friday. If I have the time and the energy, I'll be continuing that during the weekends. Yeah, so I was just mentioning about the roles and how it goes, but it's been pretty good. I mean, we've talked a lot and we've covered a lot of things. So, I mean, we'll just jump straight right to what's next for you, a little sneak peek about what you're doing currently and what role are you looking forward to next, if you would like that. I mean, obviously not talking about the switch and everything, but then what is one of the roles that has pretty much not inspired, but then you're like, okay, that's a pretty interesting role that I could try, something like that in 2022.
Definitely, yeah. I was thinking a lot about how I want to put my goals forward for 2022 and make that, because I like that structure in my lifestyle. I always want to have a plan and we'll go over that. Even if my plan changes here and there, that's totally fine, but there should be a North Star for me. So I was thinking a lot about that, and you're right. So right now I am a software engineer. I'm working as a DevRel, and I'm trying to continue and juggle both for a bunch of months, years at least. I'm not sure how much that would be, but I think I was looking into roles inside Microsoft that could bring both of my skill sets together and then give me one specific role that would define it all. So what I'm trying to do is basically you can't know what to do next if you can't, if you don't have those mentors or folks that inspire you. So my main goal here is to just talk to a bunch of folks here, hear about their interesting stories. I mean, you again have an interesting story. So my goal here is just to talk and be curious about what's to come next, identify which roles inspire me. There are a bunch of roles that are recognized that again are a journey of are a part of your journey as a software developer, right? You're a software developer, you grow in that role, and there are a bunch of roles that you can, bunch of directions that you can go to. So I'm just exploring all of those options to see which perfectly aligns with my skill sets. And if there's a gap that I need to fill, a skill that I need to learn, I'm just going to try and do that. So basically, yes, my next role, there are a bunch of things that are in store here. I'm planning a bunch of things with, some of the WM scholars, something inside Microsoft that we're trying to get external. So a lot of those things are happening, and all of those things basically lead up to one particular role. I'm just trying to find that role by talking to a bunch of folks who are working that journey. So that's what the whole aim is. I'll let you know when I do figure that one out, but for now the plan is just to learn, be curious for the next couple of years, have that skill set and niche defined, that I want to be recognized with something in the industry. This would be it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's never too late. It's never too early either. I mean, it's up to the person, right? How they want to set. Because, I mean, especially now in tech, where I've seen very young folks get into it, very old folks transition to it. There's no right or wrong. You can do it your way, whatever suits you the best, right? That is one of the best things that I find about tech, especially now. And also, we did miss out on a question. He said, Didi, how do you prepare for such hackathons? Can you tell me more about it?
Oh, I love that one.
And the thing is, and he left. Sadly, he left because I think we missed it out, right? We were talking and we missed it out. But then, I'm pretty sure, because we were marketing it on Twitter, I'm pretty sure he would be able to see that. So once the video is out, he'll be. So if you can answer that.
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah. So Hackathons, preparing for hackathons is something that when I did in my initial years, I think I gradually picked up on a few more things and changed my way of preparing for it. But yes, if you are starting out with hackathons, I would say even if you think you don't know any languages, any frameworks, or haven't developed an app before, don't worry about it. Just go show up at a hackathon, get a team, try to team up with experienced hackers so that you can learn from them, and that would go a long way. So if you're starting out and you have no idea what to do, that's the one tip I would give you. But if you are let's say in a hackathon, in one hackathon or two, you know how the drill is, in that case I would say you know how it works. I mean, you can just go ahead, start thinking about project ideas, start working with your team, the folks you're comfortable with, the folks you wanna team up with. Make that team, think about the idea. A lot of hackathons don't allow you to code before the weekend starts, so just don't do that. Just think about the idea, research about the tech stack that you're going to use, try to learn that tech stack before if you want, and then at the weekend you can just focus about making it a sprint and then working on your project. So that can happen. But if you're new, don't feel overwhelmed with all of this. You don't have to worry about this. All you have to do is show up, learn from someone, and then get set up on your own plan. Because if you aren't get your hands dirty, you won't explore. If you won't explore, you won't know what you're interested in. So I get this question a lot from a lot of folks, that I don't know what I want to do next, or I don't know what I'm interested in. And the true answer is, you can talk to a bunch of folks, but you'll never realize what you're interested in unless you start doing something. So just pick one thing, pick one stack, start to work on it, and then move on to the next one if you don't like it.
Yeah, makes sense. I would say if it is totally fine to go unprepared to an hackathon, because I
that's the beauty of it.
In my experience, the hackathons that I did prepare for, they were one of the best hackathons I've ever had. Because you don't have to think about the code, but then you can think about, there's a lot of stuff going on in the very wherever the hackathon is placed. There's a lot of stuff going around, right? And a small part of it is where coding, but then there's a lot of exciting things going around. I mean, definitely you should check it out. But then, I mean, at the same time, I feel like when you're attending an hackathon, I mean, it is not necessary, but then on a very large scale, a lot of folks do know the tech stack, right? At least they might be knowing at least one or two languages. So you can just go ahead with that and you can build something up right then and there. I've seen folks who come unprepared and they are alone and they team up in that very space, and they're like, hey, do you want to team up? I have this idea. Do you want to team up? And that's pretty crazy. That is what hackathons is all about. It is very unpredictable. It is very exciting. It is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. All you gotta do is, let's say in a virtual setup, it's much more easier to be a part of a hackathon, right? You just have to go to a channel. There would be a team building sort of channel there, and post that I'm looking for someone. I know this, or even if you don't know anything, I'm willing to learn this. Just mention that, and folks would just team up with you and help you learn.
Makes sense.
Tech community is very friendly. I've not seen as friendly a community in other career fields. A bunch of my friends are working in different fields, and I've not seen as friendly. Everybody is helpful. Everybody wants you to learn. Everybody wants you to grow, and that's a part of their own journey as well. So just grab hold of that opportunity and go for it.
Yeah, we didn't have this question and we are getting low on time, but then we'll still ask you that. So the online hackathons or in person?
Definitely in person. I don't like sitting in front of a computer screen and doing all of things. I'm watching a movie on my computer screen. I'm attending a hackathon on my computer screen. I'm working on the code on my computer screen. That's definitely not me. So I would definitely love to be a part of in-person hackathons again. They were amazing. You know.
Yeah.
As simple as we sat around. So if we were in an in-person hackathon, there was this one guy who always brought a guitar, and we were jamming on songs at midnight, and that was the best feeling ever, because you're working through the code throughout and then you're taking a break because someone is jamming out there.
So true.
Yes. So that is something which I've not yet seen in virtual hackathons. Probably someone would try and mimic it, but I hope you do. So that is something which was an interesting part of my in-person hackathon experiences, so I wouldn't trade that for anything else.
Yeah, hopefully it happens soon and we get back to in-person, especially with Metaverse coming up. Hopefully that doesn't make the whole virtual reality thing. That would be even crazier.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
it would be good, but then it would be crazy. But then the whole ambience is very different in-person hackathons, right? And when you're there networking with people on the very first, right then and there, that is pretty unique. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that was an amazing session. We initially planned it for 30 minutes, and now it's an hour. I mean, it did cover a lot of parts of your journey, which was pretty good. Thanks a lot joining. Thanks a lot for joining. I mean, we had been planning it since December, and then I mean, everybody has their busy schedules, but then thanks a lot for joining, Sashrika. It's been pretty great. Any closing lines from your side?
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much again for inviting me. As you said, we've been planning this for a long time. I'm glad that we were able to get to it and get it done. Thanks for being so supportive with the schedule. I mean, I understand that. I got sick and it was a whole mess.
Yeah,
thank you so much for being
totally.
Yeah. So again, AVL, I saw the platform. It's amazing, and as I mentioned, I love how it looks. So definitely, best of luck with your product. Best of luck with everything that you want to do next.
Thank you.
And yeah, I mean, I had a great time talking about this journey. I hope everybody enjoyed that. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot for joining. We are also revamping a platform where it will be. I mean, I can give you the insights there, where we are having a very much setup where it looks like an actual podcast where the speakers are right beside each other to make it very interactive for the folks, where they'll be able to see it on the very same screen. Just UI, basic UI UX and everything. Yeah. But then
I would love to be a beta user there to just experience that. Love that idea.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the events platform is free for taking any type of events that you come up with, right? Yeah, we can talk about it backstage, but then definitely thanks for joining us, Sashrika. It's been sure. Great. Yeah, it's been a great long podcast which covered a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, the more I say, it's the less word. But then thanks for joining it. It was great. Thanks a lot for joining, folks. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
bye.